Hello. Hello, me. I gotta get over this because I'm an old lady. Life is starting to manifest once again. I just have to remember to steer the course. Keep doing the everyday stuff, you know? Okay, so, like this right here. Same book. 10 minutes. Having unwound myself and lighted one of my wax tapers, I made haste to cast away the undergarment of its coating of black lead and resume my clothing. Then, stooping down, I made an examination of the floor. It was composed of huge blocks of marble of various colors, polished almost to smooth, as if the hand of man had wrought the work. And then I knew that I was on nature's marble highway, leading to the cities of the underworld, which Don Fume had mentioned in his book. And I remembered, too, that he had spoken of nature's mighty mosaics. Huge, fantastic figures on the walls of these lofty corridors, made up of various colored blocks and fragments laid one upon the other, as if with design, and not by the wild, tempestuous whims of upbursting forces thousands of years ago, when the earth was in its mad and wayward youth. After a rest of several hours, during which I nursed my torn hands and bruised fingers, Bulger and I were up and off again, along this broad and glorious marble highway. Strange to say, it was not the inky darkness of the ordinary cavern which filled these magnificent chambers, through which the marble highway went winding in stately and massive grandeur. Far from it. The gloom was tempered by a faint glow that met us on the way ever and anon, like a ray of twilight gone astray. Anyway, Bulger, I noticed, could see perfectly well. So, tying a bit of twine to his collar, I sent him on ahead, convinced that I could have no surer guide. At times our paths would be lighted up for an instant by the bursting out of little tongue of flame, either on the sides or from the roof of the gallery. I was puzzled for quite a while to tell what it proceeded from, but at last I caught sight of the source, or rather the maker, of this welcome illumination. It proceeded from the lizard-like animal which, by suddenly uncoiling its tail, had the power to emit this extremely bright flash of phosphorescent light, and in so doing he made a sharp crack for all the world like the noise of an electric spark. Bulger was delighted with this performance, and on one occasion, not being able to control his feeling, he uttered a sharp bark, whereupon apparently 10,000 of these little torch-bearers snapped their tails at me at the same instant and filled the vast place with a flash of light of almost lightning-like intensity. Bulger was so frightened by the result of his applause that he took good care to keep quiet after this. I didn't realize I had it pointed forward. I feel like I should do something. Okay, chapter 7. Better? Our first night in the underworld, and how it was followed by the first break of day, Bulger's warning and what it meant. We fall in with an inhabitant of the world within a world, his name and calling, mysterious return of night, the land of beds, and how our new friend provided one for us. So heavy with sleep did my eyelids become at last that I knew that it must be night in the outer world, and so we halted, and I stretched myself at full length on that marble floor, which, by the way, was pleasantly warm beneath us, and the air, too, was strangely comforting to the lungs, there being a complete absence of that smell of earth and odor of dampness so common in vast subterranean chambers. My sleep was long continued and most refreshing. Bulger was already awake, however, when I sat up and tried to look about me. He began tugging at the string which I had fastened to his collar, as if he wanted to lead me somewhere, so I humored him and followed along after. To my delight, he led me straight to a pool of deliciously sweet and cold water. Here we drank our fill, and after a very frugal breakfast on some dried figs, set out again on our journey along the marble highway. Suddenly, to my more than joy, the faint and uncertain light of the place began to strengthen. Why, it seemed almost as if the day of the upper world were about to break. So delicate were the various hues in which the ever-increasing light clothed itself. Then, as if affrighted at its own increasing glory, it would fade away again to almost gloom. Ere many moments again, this faint and mysterious glow would return, beginning with the softest yellow, then changing through a dozen different tints, and like a fickle maid uncertain which to wear, put all aside and don the lily's garb. Bulger and I wandered along the marble highway, almost afraid to break a stillness so deep that it seemed to me as if I could hear those sportive rays of light in their play against the many-colored rocks arching this mighty corridor. We're like speeding through here. Now, as the marble highway swept around in a graceful curve, a dazzling flood of light burst upon us. It was sunrise in the world within a world. Whence came this flood of dazzling light which now caused the sides and arching roof to glow and sparkle as if we had suddenly entered one of nature's vast storehouses of polished gems? Shading my eyes with my hand, I looked about me in order to try and solve the mystery. It did not take me long to understand it all. Know then, dear friends, that the ceilings, domes, and arched roofs of this underground world were fretted with a metal of greater hardness than any known to us children of sunshine. It seems rather hither and thither like the veins of gigantic leaves, and at certain hours currents of electricity from some vast internal reservoir of nature's own building streamed through these metal traceries until they glowed with a heat so white as if to give off the flood of dazzling light of which I have already spoken. That sounds like the Avatar movie. The current never came with a sudden rush or burst, but began gently and timidly, so to speak, as if feeling its way along. Hence the beautiful tints that always preceded sunrise in this lower world, and made it so much like the coming and going of our glorious sunshine. The marble highway now divided, and the two halves of the fork, curving away to the right and left, enclosed a small but exquisitely ornamented park, or pleasure ground I might call it, provided with seats of some dark wood, beautifully polished and carved. This park was ornamented with 4 fountains, each springing from a crystal basin and spreading out into a feathery spray that glistened like whirling snow in the dazzling light. As Bulger and I directed our steps towards one of the benches, with the intention of taking a good rest, a low growl from him warned me to be on the alert. I gave a second look. A human being was seated on the bench. Beside myself, as I was, with curiosity to come face to face with this inhabitant of the underworld, the first we had met, I made a halt, determined to ascertain, if possible, whether he was quite harmless before accosting him. He was small in stature and clad entirely in black, a sort of loose flowing robe, much like a Roman toga. His head was bare, and what I could see of it was round, smooth, and rosy, with about as much hair, or rather fuzz, upon it as the head of an infant 6 weeks old. His face was hidden by a black fan which he carried in his right hand, and the uses of which you will learn later on. His eyes were shielded from the intense glare of the light by a pair of colored glass goggles. As he raised his hand between me and the light, I couldn't help catching my breath. I could see right through it. The bones were as clear as amber, and his head, too, was only a little less opaque. Suddenly, 2 words from Don Fume's manuscript flashed through my mind, and I exclaimed joyously, "Bulger, we're in the land of the transparent folk." Okay, my alarm's going off. I have math to do. My mind is in 100 places. So, we started on page 233. Okay, I just want to make sure. Quit procrastinating on anything and everything. Time wasted is just that, wasted. Avoid distractions and the noise around me. Block it out. The art of continuous self-love through food, through water intake, through intentional meditation and thought. Something inside of me is superior to circumstance. Is it kind? Is it true? Does it reflect my authentic self? Focus more on money and its education. Focus more on self-discipline. See the sun, honor the moon. Forward momentum. The path out of hell is through misery. Honor my journey. We are slaves to our own incessant urges to escape the present moment. Meditate, walk, journal, stretch. Love animals. Leave life to wander all it needs. Less stress, more fairy tale. Work on bettering the love I show my body through the food and beverage I put in it. With money, it's not what you make, but what you keep. Focus. Lose any ties to victim mentality. Continue to help yourself. Lose any ties to victim mentality. Continue to help yourself. Okay, till tomorrow.